G'day guys, something a little bit different today. We're going to be looking at a MonoGame library that you might have heard of. What it is it's a light engine that you can apply to your games. It's pretty cool. It's called Penumbra and it is written by Disco Sultan. And what it does is it gives you a really easy library that you can just add in light objects and hulls to create shadows and light into your game. It gives it a really cool effect, and you have to see how it looks here in the this platform, XNA platformer thing. The only issue is that it, if you have a look at the GitHub page, which is here, and I'll link it down in the description as well, is that it only works for MonoGame WindowsDX projects. And that's not actually true, because it actually also works for OpenGL MonoGame projects as well. But that doesn't help me out either, because what I really wanted was to be able to deploy my MonoGame game to my Xbox via Windows UWP. So I had a look in the issues section for this GitHub, and I found this fairly vague but fairly helpful post by the developer, Disco Sultan. And I thought, why not? Let's fork it and see if I can get it running in a MonoGame UWP. So if you jump over to my fork, have a look at it here. Okay, so you can see the familiar something random logo, and I've got my own fork of it in my own GitHub. And what I've done is I've ripped out everything that's unrelated to unrelated to UWP, yeah, and I've put it into this repo here. So this video is going to be about how to get this working. So in your project, okay. So the first thing you want to do is jump over to this URL here. I'll put it up here and in the description as well. And then copy this URL, this git clone URL, and then in whatever software you're using to connect to Git. I like to use source tree because I need a GUI, but if you're using the command line, that'll work too. We're going to clone it onto my local machine or to your local machine. So new tab, go clone, we'll put the URL in there. And we'll just create a new folder here. So working, I'll just put it in here. Penumbra UWP, and we'll whack it into there. Hit the clone button. This might take a second as it downloads everything. And we're done. Alright, so we'll hit close on that, and we can see we've got the, so I've got this one here as well. This is obviously the original project, but don't worry about that, and the GeoWar project that you're familiar with. But we've got this new one, Penumbra UWP, and let's go ahead and open that guy up in Visual Studio. So if you have a look at the files, Penumbra UWP, you'll see that there's a solution file in here that you can use to open up in your own copy of Visual Studio. So we'll go ahead and do that. Open project. That was a D working. I want to go Penumbra. Don't mind the dog. Okay, so once you've got the project open in Visual Studio, you will see that there's two projects inside of it. And the first one that should be your startup project already is the actual Penumbra UWP stuff, and the other project is a Hello Penumbra UWP, which is just like a sample project, just so you can have a go mucking around with the Penumbra stuff, creating lights and hulls and shadows and whatnot. So the first thing you need to do is make sure that your Penumbra UWP builds correctly. So that's your startup project. I'll just run the build. Oh my god, my dog. Oh, okay, and I've got a build error here. looks like the XNA namespace isn't working for it, so that's a bit strange. So you might have to do this as well. So what we'll do is just remove this one, and we'll just add in MonoGame reference again. So we just go add reference, and if you go, well, I've already added it in before, but basically if you go into your browse, and you can browse for it, so you need to go into C drive, program files, and then wherever you've installed MonoGame, assemblies, and Windows Universal, and it's going to be this one here. So under Windows Universal, because this is for Windows UWP, we'll just hit add on that, hit OK, and that should resolve these errors once we do a build. Okay, so let's just go do a build. And we've got build succeeded, and what that will do is build all the files into your, so inside the project you will see a source folder, and that's where the CS proj file is, so that's where this project is. And if you jump into bin and debug, because we built it into debug, you will now have this DLL, which is, this is what you want. So you want this MonoGame Penumbra UWP DLL, as well as this content folder, which would also get built with your build. Okay, so you'll have all these effects files and this macro effects, and you need that to add that to your project. And at this point, now that we have this DLL built, we can actually have a go at running the Hello Penumbra project. The way you do that is we have to check the references first, and usually this one will be out. So we need to add this DLL back in. So what I'll do is remove that, and we'll go add reference, and we're going to go to that DLL that we've just built. So C drive, D drive, working for me anyway, that's what it is. Source drive, bin, debug. So wherever you've cloned the project to, go into source, bin, debug, so wherever you've built it, and we'll add that library back in, hit add, and we'll hit OK, and that should be good to go now. So now we'll set this as the startup project, and we'll just make sure this is running. So this is a sample project for built in MonoGame UWP, and we'll just give that a run now. Build started. You can see our familiar UWP window, and that's the sample project working there. It's beautiful, isn't it? So we've got the light and the shadow just moving, and this is the code. Sorry, not extensions. Oh, well, anyway, that's the project working. Let's go through the steps of adding this to your own project, okay? So let's close that down, and we'll just start a new Visual Studio session. So I'll just go Visual Studio, and I'll put this one over into my other monitor so I can see it. Okay, so now we're going to start our own project, and we're going to add that Penumbra UWP library to it. So pretend this is your own project. You go New Project, and MonoGame. We're going to have a MonoGame Windows 10 Universal project, and we'll just call it Game 1, whatever, or whatever yours is. And I'll just get that created. And remember, with MonoGame you need to have 14393. If you need help setting all of this up, I'll put a video link up the top now on how I set up all my MonoGame for UWP projects. And I'll just hit OK on that. Alright, so yep. So whenever you make a MonoGame UWP project, it always starts out all terrible like this with a million errors. All you've got to do is run a build. So just run the build just to make sure everything's okay. Alright, and that's all good to go now. Now what we want to do is just add that DLL in that we've built. So you need to go add reference, and you should have it here already, but if not, we'll hit browse. And now that we've built Penumbra UWP, so this is the clone, source, bin, and then the built file, which is this bad boy here, Penumbra UWP DLL. We'll hit add, we hit OK, and we've got Penumbra in there now. So that should be good. So if I go using Penumbra, that works now, and I can use all the Penumbra libraries in this game. But what you'll find is you'll run into an error when you start running it because it doesn't have the FX files, and Penumbra looks for the FX files in the local project via the content manager. The reason why we have to do that is, well, you can look at my Git and see why it's doing that. It's because I had to use content manager to load the content rather than resource manager, and because resource content manager is not available in Windows UWP for some reason. I don't know why. But anyway, so this is what you got to do. You got to go into content, to your content project, and then open up the MonoGame pipeline tool, and then you got to go edit, add, existing item, and remember where you built the Penumbra UWP. I've also set it up so that it puts out all the content that you'll need. So you jump into that folder once again, so wherever you've cloned Penumbra UWP, source, bin, debug, and then content, and then you want to add all these FX files and this FXH file, the macros file. So you select all of them, click OK, and then you'll get this little pop-up. And what you want to do is have that selected, copy the file to the directory, and then have this checked so it's the same for everything. Just hit OK on that. And then this macros.fxh doesn't need to be built by the content project, so you can exclude it. It just needs to be there and exist there so that because these FX files are dependent on it, they need it. So once you've done and excluded it from the content project, just hit build, just make sure everything builds properly, and it does, so that's all good. So we can close that, and now you're ready to go. So let's have a little crack at it to make sure it's all working. So we don't want this app.cs actually. Let's just remove that Penumbra from the app.cs. We want the game1.cs. This is the one we want. So this is our normal game loop and all that. And the first thing you need to do is add in a couple of libraries. So we're going to put Penumbra and system in. And then we're going to declare the Penumbra component. So we'll do that here. Penumbra component. And I'm going to call that Penumbra. Alright, I think what I might do is just copy and paste this code over. It'll be a little bit easier. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is create a light. So this is how you create a light in Penumbra. Now there's a couple of different types of lights. Let's have a look at the documentation. Look at the documentation. You've got 3 different types of lights. You've got the point light, which is this one here. You've got the spotlight, which is this one here, which is like sort of directional. And then you've got textured light, which is very much like the spotlight, but it sort of flickers. It's pretty good for maybe fires and things like that, to represent fires in your game. We'll just start with the point light here. And there's a few things you can change with it. You can probably play around with it. So if you have a look at light, your light, no, hang on. So if you can just have a look inside the library here, you go light. You can change the color, you can set a boolean whether it casts shadows, you can enable it or disable it. Its position, all of these are public that you can set all these different values here. But we'll just go with the default one for now, so that's just light. Maybe we'll mess around with it later if there's time left in the video, but for now we're just going to go with that. And then the other thing that you want to create is a hull. So So what a hull is it is a sort of an object that will interact with the light. So it will cast a shadow basically. So if the light is here and the hull is here, there will be a shadow over here, right? So the light's passing through and there will be a shadow behind the hull. And once again, you can have a look at the hull. So you can go hull dot, and you can change whether it's enabled. It's a polygon. So this is defined as a 1 by 1 by 1 by 1 pixel polygon, and then it's got a scale here which multiplies the scale by 50. So it just it starts like this, and then we say scale is 50, so it just increases it by a proportion of 50 in every proportion. Yeah, that's it. So and then you can have a play around. You can change the position, rotate them, change its points, change its origin, whatever you want. Just have a muck around. That's the best way to learn a library, right? Okay, and then the next thing we want to do is under graphics content, we want to add in a few initializations. So we'll just put them in here. So the Penumbra component object, we're going to create a new Penumbra object and then give it the game instance. And then we're going to go add the lights to the Penumbra component object. So that's there. So penumbra.lights.add. We'll just add the light that we just created. And then same with hulls, we're going to add the hull that we just created. And then under initialize, we need to initialize Penumbra. So we need to put this little bit in here. So Penumbra and initialize. That'll run all the code that's needed to get this thing up and running. Get your light engine up and running. And then load content, unload content we can leave. Update here. So this is where you can sort of play around with where all your stuff's positioned, right? It's just your normal update. So I'll just pull over all the stuff that we've got from the Hello Penumbra UWP file. And okay, so I've got an error here because I don't have the input. We don't need this bit, we can just get rid of that. It's just for example purposes. So basically all we're doing here is we've got light.position, and then there's some very complicated maths here to make the light rotate around. Basically all you need to know is every update cycle the light's moving in some direction. You can have that set up however you want. So you can set up however you normally do movement in your game, because the light might be, say, the player, so you might just get the player's position and then set the light there. Okay, so whatever it is, it's just a vector 2, alright? Simple stuff. And then your hold up rotation bit here is just, we're just changing it and rotating the hull around and around and around. So that should be simple. All we're doing is just changing whatever rotation is now, add a little bit to it. So we've got right angle and we're just doing it by the number of game time that has passed. So that's easy enough. So the last bit here, this one's a little bit tricky. So we've got penumbra.beginDraw, and I'll just put the comments into here as well. So we want the penumbra.beginDraw right up the top here. And then you've got the graphics device.clear. So this is the blue background, right? By default that shows up. And then you've got we've got this penumbra.draw. And then basically, so everything in between these two are affected by the light engine. Anything that you draw outside here, down here, is not affected by Penumbra light engine. Okay, so stuff that might go down here might be your UI. I don't know, maybe some enemies you don't want to have affected by darkness or light. Yeah, but generally I think maybe your UI, maybe menus, all that sort of stuff, you don't want it affected by the light engine, so you just leave that. But your stuff like your enemies, your player, any sort of game objects, that sort of stuff, you want to put in between this Penumbra begin draw and this Penumbra.draw commands in here. Alright, so let's see this running in our UWP project. So we'll just hit local machine. And there you go, beauty. So we've got it running in the UWP project. How cool is that? Now, if you follow my videos, you will probably know that I've been doing a little series called creating a geometry walls clone. What I might do is I might take a branch of that geometry walls clone at some point and add this lighting engine to it. But before I do that, I want to add in sound, which is in the next episode, and what's the other thing? And bloom, which is the episode after that. So once I've got that working, maybe we'll look at adding Penumbra to that project and add some cool effects. So if you want to check out that project and you didn't know about it, I've got episode 1 linked up the top here. And yeah, that's it from me today, guys. Thank you for watching. Cheers.